There we go. All right. Well, good morning, gentlemen. All right, welcome to another Bloodhound workshop, and I need to finish taking a look to see who's in the room. And well, all right, yeah, I do see one, maybe two names here. I don't recognize off the top of my head. I'm not positive about. So, before we dive in to the questions here, let me first ask if there's anybody new in these workshops or fairly new to these workshops and would like to hear the workshop introduction. So really that's my question. Would you like to hear the workshop introduction? All right, so the introduction is I'll explain what we do in this workshop and what we do not do. I'll also explain how the recordings work. So that way, if you ask a question, you'll know how soon you can get the recordings. And then lastly, I'll explain what other custom indicators I can install into my machine here. So, because every once in a while I do get questions about using a custom indicator there. So I'll explain which ones I can install and which ones I will not install. So, all right. So if anybody'd like to hear the workshop introduction, let me know and I'll get that out of the way. So I'll wait a little bit. And so while I'm waiting here, there were three emails with multiple questions here. So this is going to be quite a busy Bloodhound workshop day here. All right. So, and I always answer the emailed in questions first. So for those of you, so just a heads up, for those of you who might have a live question for me, just be aware that it's going to take me some time to get to those questions there. So yeah, so all these emailed in questions are going to keep me very, very busy today. So all right, so with that, I don't see anybody asking for the workshop introduction. All right, so I'll dive into the first question here. All right. Actually, this first one's not actually a question, but more of just a reminder there, because actually, I do recognize most of the names in the room here, so I'm sure you guys have all heard this before, but it's always good to have it's good for me to give you guys another reminder here. So, so the question was asked here, how do I eliminate this signal? And, we don't provide trading advice or more specifically, we don't provide solutions to signals you don't like. All right. So we don't answer questions like this. If you know, like mechanically, what the conditions are that should eliminate, a particular signal like this down signal, then you need to explain what that condition is that should eliminate any particular signal you don't like, right? And that is what this workshop is for. You must know what the conditions are for your system, or you must know what the conditions are that would eliminate a signal and explain it to us at Shark Indicators, and then I can demonstrate in these workshops how you would build a solver that could filter out, a signal that you don't like. All right. Yeah. So, so there you go. PSA for for these workshops here. All right. So, all right. Let's move on to some actual questions I can answer here. There, I'll slide that over. All right, so this involves generating a signal on a pullback here. All right, and let me switch over to a better screenshot. So here we go. We got one zoomed in a little bit, right? So we can see all these long wicks on these Renko bars, right? And so this is a kind of a common question here. All right, so I'm going to answer this one as a separate question, And then after that, we're going to get more complex where we're then going to merge in this other system here, right? So we can see we have a multi-EMA system here that's generating a signal once all the EMAs, restack in the same direction there, all right? Yeah, so actually kind of going back here, I was emailing, the person back saying, hey, your screenshot here actually says this is a good signal, right? If you look at the EMAs, they're all stacked, in a short condition there. So, so that looks like a valid signal there. So, yeah. I couldn't get an explanation as to why, that this is invalid, based on this multi-EMA system, versus why this one's good. So obviously, as traders, we can look at a chart and say, oh yeah, let's get rid of that one in hindsight, right? But based on your, indicator conditions, that actually is a valid signal. So, yeah. All right, so let's get back to these pullbacks here. Yeah, so this is actually two separate systems here. And yeah, it's going to take a little bit of work here to integrate them. So this, I'll call this like the initial system here, right? Or it's a multi-EMA system here, right? This operates on bar close, right? So when the bars close, you get a signal. These pullbacks, obviously, if you're waiting for the bar to close, well, then you miss the entry down here, right? The entry is down here. It's not up here when the bar closes. So when you're wanting to get in on pullbacks of a wick, right, versus pullbacks of a closed bar, right, then you're operating on intrabar data, right? You're not waiting for the bar to close. And so those two systems use a different calculate setting, right? So what do we mean by calculate setting? Well, let's pull up, let me just pull up the, man, the markets are moving so fast, my mouse is a little glitchy here. Let me pull up the indicator, if I can double click on it, there we go. All right, so what is the calculate setting? Well, it's, there you go, under setup, right? It's these NinjaTrader settings here, calculate, right? So normally most people are using calculate on bar close, but if you're wanting to operate on these pullback wicks, then you need to operate either on each tick or on price change, right? So you have two different calculate modes, and indicators, you can only pick one, right? Your EMAs can't be calculating on price change and on bar close at the same time. So same with Bloodhound. So let me click on Bloodhound here, right? So with Bloodhound here, if we open up the setup section here, same with Bloodhound. You can't put Bloodhound in two calculate modes, right? That's just basic, operations of NinjaTrader and all indicators there, right? So therefore, right, we have a problem here between these two systems here, where one needs to wait for the bar to close and the other one needs to operate intra-bar with so this one is calculate on price change, right? These signals. This signal is calculate on bar close. So now there is a workaround, and I'll demonstrate that here. Yeah, at the end here. All right. So we have two systems here that we're going to build, and then combine them together. So, all right. So with that, I'm going to switch Bloodhound over to on price change. All right. So there you go. Bloodhound is now calculated on price change. All right. And I'm going to use this EMA here. And what is it? It's an EMA 12. And so we can see that we do get a couple of wicks here that do hit that, so that way we can actually generate some signals there. Okay, and let me pull this back so the market stops moving on me. There. All right, so let's get Bloodhound open, and we'll start building. All right, first thing we want to do is save a file name here. So let's say today's the 20th. There we go. Change the date. All right, there we go. So now we have a file name here that all of our work gets saved to. So let's see here. And I'm going to name this logic template here. All right. Let's see. So, yeah. So first thing, we're going to do a simple, very simple kind of trend determination here. So I'm just going to compare, right, the closing price, right, and it's going to have to be the previous bar's closing price here. And actually, let's zoom in a little bit. And all right, so I'm going to use this guy here. There we go. All right. So while this bar is forming, right, so as price is bouncing up and down, building this bar here, right, we do have a closing price back here, right? So we can't use this bar's closing price, right, because that closing price is bouncing up and down as the bar is building there. So we have to use the closed bar's closing price, right, because that closing price is anchored because the bar is closed, right? So we're going to use that. And so input A, we're going to switch that over to price, right? And we have the close is the default. And then we're going to have to look back one bar. So put our look back period on 2, right? So again, remember, our calculate mode is set to on price change. So the closing price that NinjaTrader will provide you is the closing price, right, of the bar that's bouncing up and down. Actually, let's kind of put this like this, right? So as price is moving up and down, that's the price that NinjaTrader will return to you. So we have to grab the price of one bar back. So, right. So that's why we set the look back period to 2. So, all right. Next, input B. So that's going to be our EMA there. All right. Oh, and there you go. Click on the SMA. And there we go. Do a little search for EMA. There it is. All right. And again, I'm using a 12 period like so. And let's name this solver here. So we're comparing the close to the EMA 12. Right. And actually, we can do something like this. Just so that we know, I can put a 2 in there. All right, there we go. So that way we know our look back period is set to 2. So, and now if we look at the chart, there we go. All right. So when we get to this bar, right, we look back at the previous closing price and compare it to the EMA, and yeah, right, there we go. So, let's see here. Actually, you know what? Yeah. So this is normally how I would do it. And quite often there's, multiple ways you can kind of do something here. So, um, yeah, actually, this is probably the proper way here. But what we could also do is instead of using the closing price, now this will look better historically, right? So some people might be saying, well, hey, this should be short here on this reversal bar. But you got to remember, you didn't know it was going to close down until after the fact, right? Because your calculate mode is set to on price change. So if you want this, so there's another way here, so that it looks better historically. And actually, let's go ahead and there, we'll move that over. And let's see here, I'll copy this and I'll just throw it up here, there, like so. And instead, we could use the high price of the bar there, right? So because these are Renkos, right, the bars are gonna open, Renko bars, right, when it closes, price is somewhere around that closing price. So that's gonna instantly create a high price up there. And that high price, right, is going to be above the EMA. So we could put the high price in there instead. All right. For a long, it'd be the high. And so for a short, it would be the low price. And then knock that look back period down to 1. And there we go. Let's see here. And oh, okay. So there we go. That's all right. Yeah, I guess I had forgotten about that. So this is a good example of experimenting, find out what works here. And as we can see, we do have a high price above the EMA, but we also have a low price above the EMA, and therefore we get a long and a short. So that's no good. All right, so there we go. So we just tested an idea that I thought it would work, but it doesn't. All right, so let's get rid of that. And let's delete that solver as well. Now always remember, delete your solvers there that don't work, that you're not using there. Keep your system clean, because every solver that's added here does calculations, right? So so you can have your CPU be calculating things that just are never being used. So all right, so back to plan A here, comparing the closing price. All right, so now let's get back to our signal here. So there we go. So now we just need to compare the low price, so for a long, the low price, and see if that low price is now below the EMA, right? So we have a close of the prior bar, which is above it, determining our trend. And the signal is when that low price goes below. All right, so let's see here. Yeah, so let me copy this one more time. And paste that down there. And actually, I'm going to switch these around. So this guy's the trend. So I generally have a habit where I like the triggering condition to be up top, and then my filters down below. So, but each to their own. All right, so let's change the name here. So for a long signal, we're looking at the high price, and so if it's a short signal, we'll be looking at the high price. There we go. And so let's switch these prices here to high and to low, which actually is what I had built prior. And let's put that back down to 1. And and let's connect it up. Yep, don't forget to connect your solver up there. There we go. All right. And one last thing. So you notice, right, we're having shorts here. So we need to go into the rules and we need to set this up because, oh, sorry, I got these reversed. There we go. Right, we're looking for the low price to be below the EMA for a long. So that means we need to go into the rules and reverse the default conditions. Right, so the default is typically you're looking for something to be above something else. But in this case, we're actually looking for it to be below, and I'll include the equals there as well, just for good measure. Same like that, all right, and that'll be the opposite. Click OK, and there we have it. All right, so there is our long signals when that low price, we actually have 2 bars here. Well, that low price is just barely below, right? And there's those 2 long outputs. Now all these short outputs, well, that gets filtered out by our trend, right? So our trend, right, has longs. So now we just need an AND node, like so. And there we have it. So, and you know what? Just for good measure, there we go. I'll just put in there OPC for on price change, right? Because just a little side note there, if you look at Bloodhound, you'll see Bloodhound tells you what the calculate mode is, just in case you forget, right? You can look right there. That OPC means on price change. If it's on bar close, then it'll be OB beta Charlie, right? So there you go. All right, so that's it. Now, and let's see here. Yeah, so one thing to note here is obviously every single reversal bar is going to generate a signal, right? So, and let's see here. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, so you see that long signal right there, and there's no wick. There's no wick there. I mean, that's an easy solution to solve there, right? Obviously, if you just change your Renko bar and just, change your brick size, make it smaller, and there you go, problem fixed. So that way you know the wick is actually hitting it, not the body, right? The low price of the body is hitting it. But we can build a filter there, and so that way, so if you're using a Renko bar where the brick size can't be adjusted, then yeah, then we can fix that with Bloodhound. Well, not fix it, but generate a filter there. Let me pop that back a little bit here. So let's see, how do I want to do this? Well, it's going to take another comparison solver. Actually, let me just copy one of these again and paste that down there. And let's see. All right, yeah, this time I think I'm just going to compare the open. Let's see if that works. And probably should use the equals symbol there just in case. There. Yeah, there. So with this, right, I have a short output, but the important thing is there's no long output, right? So that's what's important is there's no long output on this bar here. So, right, so when we look at the signal, right, so there's a long now, but this solver has no long output. So when I connect that in, there you go, it got removed. So, and same with this one here. Yep. So let's disconnect that. Yeah, there we go. So we had a short and a long, and those all got cleaned up there. So that seems to work. All right, let's make sure. Yeah, so those signals are still good there. And look at that. So we have a long signal there, and that is because, yep, the close did not close below that EMA 12. So, all right, so there we go. So we found another problem, right? So maybe the EMA that you want to use, to trigger a signal, or actually, you know what, instead of saying, okay, the wick needs to pull back to an EMA, right? Let's see, where is it? Here we go. So that's right. That's our low price or high price pulling back to the EMA. Instead of that, let's just do, instead of that, let's see, I'm going to grab another comparison solver. And we can just put a fixed length in there, right? We can just say, okay, that wick needs to be X ticks long instead, right? And that would kind of solve this EMA issue here. And let's see, I have to look at my bar settings again. All right. So those wicks can be a maximum of 20 ticks. No, 19 ticks. All right. So let's just go with 14. All right. There. All right. So, we're checking to see if these wicks are 14 ticks long here, right? So what are we doing? We're comparing the open to the low or the open to the high, right? So let's see here. So input A, that will be the open. There we go. Put the open in there. Input B, that will be either the low or the high prices. So if it's a long, right, we're comparing the open to the low for a long. So we'll put low in there. And if it's a short signal wick, right, open to the high price. All right, bingo. Now we just need to go into the comparison rules and switch this from, well, if you want to put points in there, whatever, but I'm counting ticks. And so let's put in 14. Let's see here. So we're actually taking the, comparing the open and then we're taking the low price and then adding 14 ticks. Let's also include the equals there, like so. Let's see what we get. Yeah, there we go. All right, so those still qualify there. And so we can connect that in. And there we go. So this way ensured that there was a wick, right? And it eliminated that signal there, right? So, but if you still wanted to use a moving average there, we could still connect that in, and then for this, yeah. So one thing we notice here, right? There's no wick on this when there's that signal, right? So if I disconnect it, right, there's no wick. So we could just say, you know what? Let's just make sure that there's at least a 4-tick wick on it. Yeah, so let's go back into the rules window and just put 4 ticks, right? Or maybe a 1-tick wick. Again, it all just depends on how you want to slice and dice this, to get your signals there. So, and then connect that in. Oops, wrong. I want to connect that to the AND node. There we go. And let's see here. We still have a signal. Oh. Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah, I probably should have gone with my, well, no. Oh. All right. Sometimes you can get so buried in the weeds here, you forget the obvious. Here. So let me put this back to 14 ticks there. So here's something else that is necessary from time to time, a bar direction, right? So, obviously you don't know what direction the current bar is going to close in, right? Because it's building there, but you know what the prior bar's direction is. So we can just use a bar direction and set the start bar as a go to 1, right? So the start bar as a go means when you're on this bar, when this bar is building, the bar direction solver is looking back 1 bar, right? Because it's starting 1 bar ago when it's looking at the bar direction. So drop that in, and there we go. All right, that solves that problem for, when using the EMA, right? So one thing we kind of learned here about using the wick length is your wick length has to be longer than your body length. Because again, looking at this Renko here, right? There's our open, and that is the low. So the open is also the high, and then the close is also the low. Yeah, so when comparing the open to the low or the high, right? In this case, that low was the close as well, right? So therefore, and that body was longer than the 4 ticks there. So yeah, so if you're going to use this wick length, again, Just make sure the wick length has to be longer than the body there. Right. Or again, we could just use this bar direction here. So if I pop that in, there we go. There. And I'll just put a little 1 in there to denote that we're starting 1 bar ago. There. So, well, let's see here. All right, I think that should do it for this, real-time wick pullback here. But let's just kind of scan through the chart and see if there's any other oddities. Also, yeah, if you're really looking closely, you'll notice adding that bar direction also removed signals on the reversal bars as well. All right, yeah, I think that looks good. All right, yeah, I don't see any issues there. Okay, so give me a moment here to prepare for the next question here. Although, yeah, actually, let me just kind of summarize here. So all these 3 bars down here are really filters, right? So we have just comparing the close to the EMA, right? The previous bar is close, right? It's kind of setting the trend direction, right? Making sure the previous bar close is above or below the EMA, right? And then as an added measure, making sure that the current open, right? The current open. So when a bar opens up, just right for the very first tick, when that bar opens up, also making sure that open is above the EMA. So I think, yeah, that's really kind of extra there. Not really necessary, at least not anymore. So this bar direction, right? Looking at the previous bar direction, essentially kind of is doing, yeah, or it's almost doing the work of both of these, but not technically. So, but it did do enough work that really this solver, this open, comparing the open to the EMA is no longer necessary there, right? So I can disconnect that there. And yeah, let's see here. Well, and actually, yeah, I should point this out. The trade-off is, well, no, that's a reversal bar. Yeah, never mind. Sorry, no trade-off. I was just looking at that wrong. Okay. So, yeah, all right, everything looks good. So, I'm actually, well, yeah, I'll just put this to the side in case anybody wants to use it there. But again, if this is not being used, the solver should be deleted. And it also should be, deleted from your list of solvers as well if it's not going to be used. So, but I'm just going to leave it in there. So for anybody who, who grabs a copy of this Bloodhound file there, just in case they want it, I'll leave it in there. But yeah. All right, yeah. So again, I was just summarizing that this is all the trend filters, and these two solvers is what was triggering the signal, right? So either the wick hits the EMA or the wick has a certain length, right? So I'll leave these two guys up top and these two guys down below. There. All right, now let me move on to the next question. All right, so this next part here. All right, so let's to kind of summarize again here. All right, so we just built this system here, which requires the calculate to be on price change or on each tick. And now we're going to switch over to this 3 EMA system here, which requires calculate on bar close. All right, so pretty simple. Once the 5 EMA is above the 8, and then the 8 is above the 21, presto, you have a signal. So first thing, let's open up Bloodhound here and change, let's see here, the setup, and change the calculate to on bar close. There we go. Now, yeah, a little side note here. Because these are all historical bars there, when you're building the system, that actually doesn't change the signals. So yeah, so the different calculate modes don't change the signals there because these are already historical bars. So in other words, these are already bars that have closed. So even though in the previous question, right, I had the calculate set to on price change, because these bars are already closed, it's, what you're seeing is as if the calculate was set to on bar close there. So, but just for good measure there we go. Oh, well, actually, I was playing around with the EMA, not Bloodhound, but you guys get the point. All right. All right. Now, yeah, so you could build this using two comparison solvers. That's one way to do it. If you build it using comparison solvers, then, right, at the end here, right, so you have two comparison solvers over here, right, then what happens is, right, the entire time that the 5 EMA is above the 8 and the 8 is above the 21, you get continuous signals, right? Because the 5 is above the 8 and 8 is above, right? This entire time, right? Those EMAs are all stacked in the correct direction. So you get a ton of signals there. And so to solve that, you have to have a signal blocker there, right? So that way you get one single discrete signal there, which is fine. That works. But I'm going to build this a slightly different way. Instead, I'm going to use a crossover solver there. And as we build this out, I'll kind of explain later on why I'm using the crossover. Again, neither one's right, neither one's wrong. They both work. But it's really a matter of preference. All right, EMA 5 crossing the EMA 8. There we go. So let's open up the indicators, and actually there's so many EMAs in my system, I think it's just faster for me to scroll down. There we go. All right. Same for input B. This will be our EMA 8. Like so. And let's connect that in. Oh, actually, no, there. All right, there we go. Bunch of crossovers. Good enough. All right, so I'm going to copy this and paste it down. Connect that up. All right, adjust the name. There we go. And now let's go in and adjust the periods. There. All right, and there's our crossovers. Now, if we connect these together, right, we only get the occasional signal, because only occasionally do all three cross each other at the same time, right? So what about here, right? So we have, let's see here. Yeah, so we have the 5 crossing the 8 way back there, and then the 8 finally crosses the 21 right there, right? So in order to alleviate that, we have to use this look back period. And actually, yeah, this one looks pretty long here. 6. All right. So it looks like just for good measure, I need a look back period of 7 there. So yeah, there we go. There is our short there. Yeah, let's see here. So we do have some crossovers here, but this time let's see, what is it? So the 8 is crossing the 21 period first, I think. So this 8 crossing the 21 needs at least one look back. So there we go. Okay, so it happened on that last bar. Yep, there we go. So that at least needs to be set to 2, but just in case, I'll set it to 3, like so. So I'll add, so for the 5 crossing the 8, I added an extra, I added 1 to what I found here. So I counted only 6 bars between the 5 crossing the 8 and the 8 crossing the 21. I counted 6, so I just added 1 extra bar, just for good measure there. Okay. So same thing, with this crossover solver. It looked like I only needed 2 to get this long signal here, so I just added 1 extra. So, right, and again, we still need a function node, so we still need a signal blocker here. And that signal blocker, it's going to need to block for at least 7. Let's see here. So we take the longest look back period, right? Because this, right? So this crossover can last for 7 bars. Let's see here. The other one can last for 3 bars. And so our signal blocker might need to block for at least 2 bars, right? So the 8 crossing the 21, that has our shortest look back period. So that is the shortest number of continuous signals we can get. And actually, let's take a look at that. Yeah, so like right here, right? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we need to block the last 2. And let's see, going back here, let's see, where was it? Yeah, I think it was there where they all cross at the same time, right? And again, 1, 2, 3. So our signal blocker just needs to block the last 2. But, again, just for good measure, we can add 1 there, just in case. Although that actually, this is a mathematical certainty. So literally, I know for a fact I only need to block for 2. So, yeah, let's see here. All right, so that is it for this system here. So I'm just going to scan through and see if any of these got missed. All right, I think this is good enough. So, all right, and let's see here. One last thing, right? So there are already a bunch of videos, a bunch of Bloodhound Workshop videos on the various ways to look at a stacked EMA system here, right? Like this. So just keep in mind, those were all created just prior to Bloodhound version 2. So those older videos are Bloodhound version 1 interface, right? But, again, the concepts and the solvers are all the same there. And so one thing that I recall here is usually there is a longer term moving average here. And in this case, let's see here. I will just throw in an EMA 100. Yeah, there we go. EMA 100 there. I'll distinguish this from all the EMAs and call it good there. All right. So as a broader trend filter, I'll just look at the slope of that SMA 100 there. All right. So let's grab a slope solver. And it could be a slope solver, or you could just compare the maybe the like over here you can compare the high price of the bar, make sure the high of the bar is below your longer term trend filter there, moving average. Make sure that the high price is below it, right? Or the low price, right, is above it. So, all right, however, again, this is just what I hear a lot, so I'll just throw that one in there. I'm just going to use the slope here of it. There, let's throw that in there. All right, so with that, and I lost all my signals. Let's see here. What did I do? All right, yeah, that looks good. Oh, there we go. All right, I must have just had my result. Yeah, I must have had the wrong thing connected to my result node. That was a problem. All right, so there we go. Shorts, longs. All right, so now we have something. All right, now we have a system, I should say, that operates on bar close, and now we can combine this with the other system that, right, the first system here that operates on price change. Right. So let's see here. So there he goes, right? So this is on bar close. Oops. There. All right. Now, All right, so now we're going to combine the on price change with the on bar close there. And I found a rogue comparison solver here that I never did use, so let me delete that out of there. There. All right, so this is our wick system here. There. All right, I'll put that up there. And then, all right, so this is our EMA on bar close. So let's build that. There. And I'm going to copy this signal blocker. And copy that. And paste it there. Now, little side note here, you'll notice, right, I took the solvers and I dragged them over, right, and just rebuilt it. So the instinct here might be, oh, why don't I just copy all those, or actually, let's copy the whole thing. Why don't I just copy this whole thing, right, and go over here and then paste it, right? Sounds a lot faster, and it sure is a lot faster. But look what happened. It made more solvers here. So you just made another set of solvers. So, all right. So that means you're doubling up on your solvers, which again is using unnecessary CPU requirements there, right? So it's kind of like putting the EMA, whatever, the EMA 100 on your chart twice, right? Why would you do that, right? It's just going to tell NinjaTrader to calculate that EMA 100 twice. Totally unnecessary, right? And it's just, every little calculation, every little indicator that you're telling NinjaTrader to calculate obviously takes up CPU time. And eventually you can get to the point where, right, your NinjaTrader feels a little sluggish. So make sure you're not creating duplicate solvers there, right? Always pull from this panel here. That's why this panel exists, so you can pull from it, so you're not creating duplicates there. Right. So let me just undo that. And there we go. And that removed those solvers when I undid that. So, and let me shrink that back up. There we go. All right, connect that in there. Now, so, yeah, just to start from the beginning, right? This system requires on-price change. This system has to wait for the bar to close. So, and right, you can't run the calculate in both modes. So, Bloodhound has to be running using, let's close all this up here. So Bloodhound has to be running using on price change, or on each tick there, in order for that wick pullback system to work. Right now, for the stacked EMA system here, how do we get this to only show us signals when the bar is closed? Well, a little workaround here is we can use the look back node there, and the displacement function, right? What that does is it shifts the signal forward in time, right? So in other words, here, let's actually take a look at it, and let's pick on a signal. There we go. Let's pick on this long signal here, right? So there's our signal. Let's go ahead and mark it as well. Right, so let's see here. Yeah, so here we can see the EMA 8 crosses the 21 on this bar, so there's our signal. All right, but of course you want to wait for this bar to close, because what if price reverses? What if price goes up, makes that crossover, and then it reverses, right? So we want to wait for that bar to close. So the look back, what it does is it's not waiting for the bar to close, but it's delaying showing that calculation until the next bar opens, right? So that look back is a workaround. So you're now waiting for that, waiting for that bar to close, and the look back is pushing that signal onto the next bar. So as soon as this bar opens, then you get the signal, right? So, and let's see here. All right, notice we got 3 signals here. Yeah, looks like I should just do a reload here. There. All right, there we have it. Yeah. So, in summary here, right? Yeah, so in summary, if part of your Bloodhound system, needs to run with on-price change, but then another portion of your system needs to wait for the bar to close, using that look back node is your workaround. All right, so Bloodhound has to run using on price change, and then using this look back node. And I didn't change anything, right? The default settings of this one displacement is what we're using here, right? And let me just there. Let's put a little note on there, right? So that one displacement is, to effectively, give us the on bar close effect. So, yeah. All right, and now last thing to do is tie both of these different systems together with an OR node. And there we have it. All right, there's our long wick signal, and there we go, another signal. Yep, there we go. And let's see. And let me just do another reload here. There we go. There. All right, let's watch this live here. Yeah, there we go. So we had a wick. Yeah, there was our wick. right? You'll notice a lot of these signals, yeah, there's a long signal, but they do, just because you don't see them historically, again, remember, historical bars give you different data than real-time bars. So all of these reversal bars do generate a signal in real time. See, like right there, this bar here, oh, no, okay, it didn't reverse. All right, that one, yeah, that one reversed. Man, the NQ is just crazy today. So you gotta have fast eyes today. So, but yeah, again, you'll notice all these reversal bars are generating a signal, as they should, because in real time they're generating a wick, but right, and then the bar might reverse. So, you know. Well, all right. I think that does it for that question there. Um, yeah. All right. So let me take a quick look at the Q&A window here. Let's see here. All right. Yeah. So Farouk was asking if both of those Bloodhound systems can be used together. Yep. And they aren't files. They're all one file. So, yeah. So I call them different systems. Yeah. So both of these systems are in the same file. So the file name is right up top there. All right. So, there. All right. And all right, let's clear that out. And let's see. All right. Yeah. So last question. Ferk's asking, how do I get a copy of the file? Easy. Just email support and ask for a copy of today's file. Yep. That's all you got to do. Just email support there. Let's see here. All right. Well, yeah, I was going to move on to the next emailed in question, but actually Doug has a really simple question here. Doug's asking, what's the simplest, easiest way to copy and rename the Bloodhound files for variation editing? Well, just like you said, just go to the file and copy it and rename it. So, or so we do have a save as. So when you build a system, make sure you save it first, so that way any changes have been saved first, and then you can hit the save as many times as you want and rename it. Yeah, do the save as, and it'll save it under a different name there, right? So you'll have, let's see here, I can put in a -2, right? So we already have the November 20th, right? The original and then I could do a save as and put a -2 on there, right, like so, and then you'll have 2 copies of the same thing, right? So that, or this is more of a Windows thing. If I open up the Windows Explorer, go to my NinjaTrader directory, and then go into templates. All right, this is why a lot of files are called templates within NinjaTrader, because of this directory here called templates. And so in this templates directory, underneath Bloodhound and Blackbird, you'll see there's all kinds of NinjaTrader template files. So these are all NinjaTrader template files here, so on and so forth. But in any case, just go into the Bloodhound directory, right? And there's all those, and then of course you could just do whatever. Just do the file copy and paste and rename all you want all day long. So, all right, 2 ways to do it. So, okay, so there's for Doug, and let's see here. All right, another little short question here. Kevin's asking, how soon do you put workshop videos on YouTube? It depends on our video editor, how busy that person is. We have no way to know how busy our video editor is. So sometimes videos have gone up on the same weekend, but quite often there's usually a 1 month lag, sometimes even a 2 month lag. So again, it just depends on how busy the video editor person is. So 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 based on that question, I guess I'll follow up by saying, if you do want to watch a Bloodhound workshop as soon as possible, what you can do, so this is a part of the workshop introduction here, is we have a secondary YouTube channel called Shark Indicators Raw. So we can see, right, this doesn't have any fancy banner or anything. This is a secondary YouTube channel, as I already said, that is for temporary upload here while our video editor is working on editing these files. And actually we can see it looks like this guy is way behind, because there's a whole bunch of workshops up here right now that people have asked to upload so they can watch them. So this is the raw recording, so there's no editing. This is the original recording here, and so we can upload it to the Shark Indicators Raw, and then once our video editor has finished cutting out all the different questions and topics, then we remove it from this channel. We delete it from this channel. So so if you want to watch today's recording as soon as possible, just email in and ask for today's workshop to be uploaded to the Raw channel there. All right, and we'll get that done. So actually, I should reload this page. And wow, okay, there's quite a backlog here. Like I said, sometimes our video guy can be 2 months behind, maybe even 3. So okay, so there you go. That's for the recordings there. Let's see. All right, so let me get ready for the next question. Let's see here. No, not that one. All right. This was the next question that was emailed in here. All right. So we're building an EMA trend pullback plus stochastics plus ADX plus ATR system here. All right. So we got a whole host of indicators here. All right. Let's see. Well, okay. So before I go too far, let me change my chart type here. There we go. Yeah, I'm just going to put the indicators up on my chart here before we walk through the system here. All right. Well, that took a moment. So let's go through the question here, right? About building this EMA trend. Yeah, EMA trend, where there's a stochastics pullback and an ADX trend as well. Um, so, and the ATR is really about the bloodhound portion, right? So trail with the ATR, right? So yeah, so we'll just focus on the entry signals here for bloodhound. All right, so first thing is setting up the trend, um, which is yeah, now, this is emailed using a comparison, comparing, right, the EMA 50 of the current bar to the EMA 50 of 1 bar ago. So, sure, you could use the comparison solver to do that, but there is a more direct way to do that. All right, so here's the EMA 50, the white line there. All right, so let's open up Bloodhound, oops, and add a new logic template. There we go. So instead of using that comparison solver, I'm just going to go with the slope solver. It's a little quicker and more direct. All right, so let's put in the name. There we go. And then for the indicator, let's put in the EMA. And there's our EMA. Go 50 period. And there we go. All right, all good. So, and yep, so there you go. Slopes up. And we get a quick slope down there. And actually, let me just make sure that is an EMA 50. Yep, okay, good. So, all right, first part's easy, done. Now, let's pull up our system notes again here. And then the next one is we want to make sure that the closing price, right, that price is above the EMA 50 there. All right. So this will be a comparison solver. So whenever you're checking to see if something is above or below something else, that's what comparison is. This, yeah, you can think of the comparison as mostly used for above or below type of conditions there. Yeah. So let's compare the close to the EMA 50. All right, so input A, that will be the closing price. So we're going to change the input type to price. There we go. Close is the default. And now input B, we just need to put in the EMA again. There we go. Set the 50 period. And there we have it. All right. Let's stretch this out a little bit. Yeah, there we go. Right, so we get a couple of closing prices right below or above there. Call it good. As a little side note, let's say, let's say maybe you wanted the entire bar to be above or below, right? Not just the closing price, but you want to eliminate all these bars that are straddling or touching, right? The EMA, if you want to eliminate those bars touching. Instead of the closing price, we could switch this to low and high price, like so. There we go. Now, every bar that's touching, there is no output, so there's no trend, right? So the entire bar now has to be above your moving average to get a long output, right? Or your entire bar has to be below. And man, I gotta say that the chances of that happening is pretty darn slim there. Yeah, the bar closed just below it and then opened just above it. So, yeah. So you do have that option there. Excuse me. All right, so let me put that back to the closing price. There we go. All right, so now we can start combining with an AND node. And let's take a look at the chart. You know, EMAs move pretty darn quick. So, you know, right now, as soon as the bar closes above or below, we can see the slope of the EMA is also, you know, changing with it there. So yeah, that EMA 50 moves so quick that they're in sync there a lot. So, but then again, I'm on a large range bar as well. So, a little side note. All right, let's go to the next condition here. Now, this pullback, right, that's actually triggering the signal. Let's stick with the filters here. So I'll move down to the ADX here next, right? This is another trend filter here. All right, so we're just simply looking for the ADX to be greater than 20. Pretty straightforward. So, all right, so here is our ADX down here. And yep, looks like it is well below 20. So, all right, but yeah, if you're comparing an indicator to some threshold level, so that 20 value is a threshold level, we're going to use the threshold solver. All right, and there. So let's plug in the ADX here. There we go. And we're just using the 14 there. Let's just double check. And yep, all right, so this person wants to use the 14 period. Okay. All right, and now, right, the 20 value. So let's open up the threshold rules here. And we want the ADX to be, I'll include the equal sign, just in case there. And so we put 20, right? So even for short signals, right, the ADX needs to be greater than 20, right? So, all right, and click OK. And as we can see, our ADX is below 20 here. Let's scroll back. There we go. So now we have some bars here with a good trend. All right, yeah, let's keep it on this right here. There we go. So yeah, I put that 20 value in white there so we can see it. There we go. All right. So connect that in. Connect in our ADX. And there we have it. Yeah, so we can see our ADX dipped below 20 and then fell below 20 here. So we have all this little, you know, blank area here with no bloodhound output there, right? And obviously same thing over here, right? The ADX is well below 20, so no output there. All right, so these are all our trend filters right now. So I will drop them down below. So now let's focus on the signal trigger condition, right? So here we go. So that stochastics pullback is what triggers the signal. And it's pretty simple. So we need the stochastics K to go below 20, right? Below 20 there for a long. And then we need the K to cross above the D, right? And that is your buy, right? That's your long signal there. So, right. So two things. So we need to check that the K went below 20 there, or is below 20, or at least it was below 20. It reached 20 there. And then we can look for the K to cross the D there. All right, so that's two solvers there. All right, so over here, we're going to use another threshold solver. So we need to be below 20 or above 80 for shorts. All right, below 20 for longs, above 80 for shorts. So let's switch over our indicator here. There's our stochastics. And the D is a 3, so 3, 14, 3. Right. And yeah, D is 3, so 3, 14, 3. Okay. So let's put in the 2080 values there. So let's open up the threshold rules. So for a long, we actually need to be less than, and I'll include the equal symbol just in case there. And for a short, it's going to be greater than 80. All right, and there we go. So the red line is the K, the faster K. So right there we have it. Let's see. Oh, yeah. All right, one thing I noticed here, yeah, if we look at the K, right, that output's off by 1, and let me go in, let's see, yeah, I didn't adjust Bloodhound here. So I still had Bloodhound set to on price change from the previous question there. Let's go into the setup, change the calculate back to on bar close. There we go. There. And, oh, maybe. Oh, that was my problem. Sorry. I didn't select the correct plot. I just changed the period. So that's why. All right. So let's go back into our stochastics here. And I should have selected the K plot. There we go. All right. There we go. Now things line up. There's our little red line above 80. There you go. Above 80. Great. Okay. Now let's do the K crossing the D there, that crossover. So we're going to pull up a crossover solver, connect that up. Okay, there we go. And all right, so input A, that'll be the stochastics K. There we go. And again, adjust the periods, 314.3. Select the K plot. There we have it. All right, input B, same thing. All right, this time the D plot's already selected by default. And all right, there we have it. Obviously, yeah, lots of crossovers down here. All right, there's a crossover. All right, call it good. Now, let's do a little test here. And we're going to combine these together and make sure that all of our crossovers actually happen below 20 or above 80. Because, yeah, see, look at those. So there's a crossover. So the K did make it above 20, but, you know, quite often, right, that K line, and actually, yeah, this is a better example. That K did reach 80, but then, you know, that crossover happens below. So if this is acceptable, you know, as a crossover, you know, because the K reached above 80, you know, for one bar, if that's acceptable, then what needs to happen is there we go, our threshold solver here needs to be extended an extra bar. All right, so what I can do is I could use a look back, or I could use a signal extender, but that signal extender is a little extreme. I'm just going to go with the look back here. And this look back is easier to set up. All right, so look back. So we're going to turn the displacement off, but then set our look back period to 2. And we're going to set the mode to max. Right. So when we look at this, there's our stochastics above 80, but then that extends forward for an extra bar there. Right. Same thing over here. Above 80. I think it's still above 80, but I think the crossover happens one bar later. Right. So there you go. So this look back using a look back period of 2 and setting the mode to max there effectively extends, you know, extends the output here by an extra bar. So I'll connect that in there. And let's also name this here. Yeah, we'll just call it 2 max for short. And there we go. So now looking at, right, our AND node here. There we go. There is that missing crossover. Same thing over here. Yeah, so we can see the crossover does happen a bar later, and we can see the K is way down here, right? So both of those crossovers were missed. So again, if the crossover needs to be above 80 or below 20, then just omit this look back node here. So, but I'll leave it in there to be a little more liberal with this system here. All right, and then, so now that we got that figured out, we don't need an extra AND node. I mean, you could just connect that AND node into that AND node and call it good, but really, this extra AND node's unnecessary, so I'm just going to disconnect it and just connect everything in down there. Call it good. All right, there we have it. And let's see what we have here. Let's see. All right, yeah, a little side note, yeah, this is asking for a reload here. So yeah, it looks like one of the um, yeah, it looks like one of the indicators gave us some problems here. So let's just do a little reload. Call it good. There we go. All right. So there's a little pullback signal. Excellent. Yeah, there's a couple right there. And it looks like we have another one. Yeah. All right. There's a couple of longs right there. Great. 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 Let's see here. All right. What is next? Um, so, um, yeah. So really, this trend filter and this consolidation thing is, one and the same, right? It's the ADX being above 20 there. So, yeah, I don't know why this was added. Seems like it was unnecessary. But just to point that out, right? So all that is just this one threshold solver down here, right? Just this guy. All right. And because the ADX is non-directional, right? Any indicator that's non-directional, you want it to output a long and a short together. So volume is another indicator that's non-directional, right? Volume doesn't tell you if you're going long or short. It's just volume. So both of those indicators and any other non-directional indicator, you want it to output a long and a short at the same time, right? So this tells you, all right, your ADX is giving you a good strong trend, so you can trade in this strong trend. There you go. You can trade in that strong trend, right? But then when there's no output, like here we go, right? There's no output, so there you go. No trading in that area. So yeah, so there you go. Just a little yeah, discussion on that there. All right, let's move on to the last item here. And so optionally, right, we can compare price to the EMA 21. Yeah, make sure price is, to make sure there's not too deep of a pullback. So really, there's no need to compare price to the EMA 50 and price to the EMA 21, right? So you could just change this solver here from the 50 period to the 21 period. That's all it takes. So, right. So, that would be, let's see, where is that? Here we go. Nope. This guy right here. Yeah, this one right here. So I'll change its position there. There we go. Yeah. So you could just change this EMA to 21. And there you go. You're done. So, all right. And that is that. All right. So this system here is pretty simple. Yeah. All right. Let me see if there's any follow-ups on this. Also, I guess, yeah, let me give this a name here. There we go. All right. And, oh, there we go. Okay, so we do have a follow-up question here. Okay, yeah. So Doug is asking. So when when switching this comparison from the EMA 50 to the EMA 21, um, can you put in a toggle to select which one to use? No, that's not what that is not what this toggle node does. No, this toggle node does not do that. The toggle node holds on to a state. Um, all right, trying to find a simple example here. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to grab this crossover solver here. And yeah, I'll just stick with this crossover here. And let's see here. Oh, it doesn't like that. All right, let's reload this guy again. There we go. All right, so we have, right, so this is the EMA crossing the EMA 21 there, right? So I thinned out those lines there, right? So we have the crossover signals, and if we wanted to hold on to some condition for a while, that's what the toggle node does. So I can plug that into there, and we can see now the toggle node held on to that long crossover until the short crossover occurred. And then it's holding on to that short crossover until the next long crossover occurs. Yeah. So it's just holding on to the output of another solver or set of solvers. So, no. So if, delete those. Yeah. So if you wanted to be able to switch between the 50 and the 21, then let's make a copy of this. We'll paste it there. And I'll rename it. And then go in and change the period. Like so. And do we have any signals? There we go. Here's some signals. All right, let's see if any of these signals change on us. There. So I can disconnect the one you don't want to use and then connect in the one you do want to use. Ah, there we go. So we lost two signals, that one and that one, but this one remained there. So that's all you got to do. It's just disconnect and reconnect the one you want. There you go. Okay, so there's our follow-up question on that. Let's see. All right, so yeah, let's see here. Doug's got another question, but I I don't consider that a follow-up here, so let me wrap this one up here. All right. Yeah, so Doug is asking, what is the difference between the toggle and the look back? Well, the toggle holds on to a condition forever until you tell it to turn off or reverse. So with the toggle node, right, we have force on, force off. So when you force the toggle node on, at some point you have to force it off. Otherwise, it'll never turn off. It'll be on forever, right? Whereas the look back, you have to set how many bars. You're limited. You can say, so if your look back's 10, the look back only looks back for 10 bars. So that it only holds on to the input for, whatever the look back period is set to, right? So the look back will always end based on your look back period. The toggle node will never end unless you have some force off. By default, you can see the default settings here is there is a force off. But if I set this to no action, then all we have is turning the toggle node on, and there's nothing that turns the toggle node off. So when you're using a toggle node, you're going to use either the reset, you'll use that to turn the toggle node off, right? Or quite often, just an opposite signal will turn the toggle node off. Or sometimes you could use the reset to do that. Right. So, and then it also has this other toggle state here, so which be like this, which I don't think I've ever come across any questions that have ever needed to use this toggle state here. But toggle means, reverse the state. Yeah. So you're toggling the state on and off, on and off. So every time so I'll set these to no action here. Right. So whenever a long signal comes in, if the toggle node is off, then that long signal will flip it. So now the toggle node's on. And then when the next long signal comes in, since the toggle node is on, it'll flip it to off. So the toggle node just flips on, off every time a signal comes in. So, right? So, yeah. So that's the difference there. Exactly, Doug's saying. So you need some method to turn the toggle node off. Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So, yeah. So, yeah. And keep in mind, I've had a couple of questions in the past where sometimes the toggle node needs to start on and then some condition happens, a signal comes through, and right, and that condition that comes through turns the toggle node off, and then whatever that thing is can never be done again, right? It's a one-time action there. So, and then maybe at midnight, you might have a time session solver, and at midnight, you might turn the toggle node back on again. So that way, come the next trading day, your toggle node's on, and so that condition can trigger one time, and then it toggle node's turned off for the rest of the day. So, all right. Anyways, don't want to go too far. I do have another emailed in question here that I need to get to first. So, yeah. so Dean has this question about the signal blocker, but first let me get the emailed in questions out of the way. And all right, guys, yeah, give me a moment here to get set up. All right, so this next question here that was emailed in is wanting to build a filter here that only allows trading when price is in between two swings, right? Two swing points, right? So for example, so in order to allow a long or a short price, the close needs to be less than the whitest tops, right? So that's the swing highs here, the green lines, and price has to be greater than the whitest bottoms, so that's the red lines. So as this screenshot kind of shows here, right, we have the swing highs up here, the blue line, and then we have swing lows. Yeah, so we can see the swing lows there, the reddish purplish line there. When that starts, there you go. It creates a range here, high range and low range, and as soon as price is in between, then we're good to trade, right? So on my chart, right, like right here, this period will be blocked from trading because price is now above the swing high. So it's outside of this range here. So to match this up with a screenshot, really, it would be like this. There. So trading can happen inside of here, which really is only like that. And then once our swing highs identified, then trading can occur again, like so. All right. And yeah, so we have another area here where there's no trading. And there, yep, so trading's only allowed in there. And of course, we still have this swing high up here. So there we go. All right, so how do we eliminate trading when price is either above or below the swing points there? All right, so with that, Let's put that away. Right. And as we can see here, right, we basically have two comparisons going on, comparing the close to the swing highs, and we're comparing the close to the swing lows or swing bottoms, right? So it's just a matter of setting up two comparison solvers there. Or actually, no, one comparison solver. Yeah, hold on. We can do this with one solver. There we go. All right, so input A, that will be the bar prices. There we go. Input B, that will be our swing indicator. All right, so in this case, we're going to use the swing highs and lows. And I did knock the number of swings down to 3 to more quickly. All that did is just more quickly generate more areas, more periods, more bars that are outside of the swing highs and lows there. All right, and next there, so for a long, let's see here. Oh, hold on. Let me back up a moment. And I just, sorry. Yeah, I adjusted that, but I didn't go and select the plots correctly here. So let's see here. So we'll generate a long when prices are above the bottoms, right, the swing lows, and we'll generate a short when prices below the swing highs or the widest tops. All right, there we go. There, and it looks like got another problem here. Maybe I should restart NinjaTrader, but let's just do a quick reload. There we go. All right, so we can see that when we get a long and a short at the same time, that is when trading is allowed. So in this case, when we get a long only, that's because price is above the swing high there. Or no, sorry, above the swing low. All right. So when there's a long only, no trading. And vice versa if it's a downtrend here. Let's move over. There we go. Yeah. So right here, price is below the swing low, and we have a short only, right? So there's no long output. So we're only interested when there's a long and a short output together. So that is when price is in between the swing high and the swing low. So how do we find that? And I think I know my problem here. My machine is just running really slow here. Yeah, I suspect there might be another Windows update here pending, which, a little side note, I have noticed over the years that whenever there's a Windows update, I don't know why, but it seems to affect my NinjaTraders pretty harshly. So, anyways, back to filtering out the long and shorts together. Right, we're going to use the long short modifier. Connect that in, and then the mode will be, there's quite a few. We could use product, but I'm going to go with minimum. Right, I think that minimum makes more sense from a naming standpoint there. And I'll just rename this min. And there we have it. So there's our filter. There we go. So, yeah. So when the close is outside of our swing range, there we go. There's no output. Right? And so when there is an output here, a long and a short, then we know price is inside the range of the swing high and the swing low. There. I'm definitely having problems. I can't even get a copy and paste to work right. Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right. So that was the last emailed in question. Great. So let's see if there's any follow-ups on this. And nope, I don't see any follow-ups. So, okay. Great. All right, let's see what Dean has here. And I'll make a new logic template here. And all right. All right, give me a moment to read through Dean's question. Dean has a question about the signal blocker here. And so he wants the signal blocker to keep blocking until two conditions occur. So either a reversal signal. So let me put a signal blocker on the board. There we go. All right. And so what we're talking about is the resets here. So by default, we can see that the input opposite signal is already enabled by default because, yeah, that gets used. That's one of the most common uses there is We don't want to be blocking reversal signals, right? The opposite signal there. So number one is already taken care of. So the second condition here that should turn off the signal blocker is after there are no further signals in either direction. Yeah. So I don't know. Yeah, if everything's coming into the input here, I'm just going to assume that there's only one connection in it, and that's to the input here. So if no more signals is your other condition, then that's this one. Input opposite, no signal. Well, actually, maybe not that one, but probably input no signal. All right, so assuming, actually, let's see here. We have something back here we can work with. Well, all right, not. Yeah, that'll work. Okay. All right. All right, so just putting together something real quick that I can work with here. And oh, all right. Yeah, I definitely need to restart my NinjaTrader here, but there we go. And there we go. All right, that should create what I want. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so I'm using the SMA 100 slope. So it's this guy here. All right, so I got some outputs here, where there's some blank areas, right, so on and so forth. So now, if I connect that in, there we go. Oh, hold on. And I should probably increase my signal blocking for quite some time there. And also, let's turn on the actively blocking so we can see here. All right, there. All right, so there we go. Let's mark this here. All right, so that's the last bar that we get, right, long blocking. Again. All right. So, so that's with the signal blocker. Now let's just look at the actual signals there. Right, there we go. So we had a 2-bar signal, 2-bar signal, right? Going back here, right, there we go. So we had the longs turn on, and right there, everywhere I put a dot, right, that's where the longs turned off. Right, there you go, longs turned off. And yeah, so these were only a single bar short there. All right. So again, looking at the signal blocker, right, there we go. There's our first signal, and now it's blocking, blocking, blocking until the input goes away. Right. Right. So right there where the dot is, right, the long inputs turn off, and the blocking also. So remember, this short output here tells us when the signal blocker is actively blocking. Right? That's why it's called actively blocking there. So this 0.2 value there. Yeah, so there we go. So I think the two resets you want is the default input, no signal, and then input, no. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Input, no signal. That's not the default. Sorry. Input opposite signal. That's one of the defaults. So you need to enable input, no signal. Turn that one on as well. Oh. All right. So there you go, Dean. There. Let's see. All right, yeah, Dean's asking to see the resets again. Yeah. So input, no signal. So that would be your condition number 2. Yeah. Now, you did mention in condition number 2 a signal in either direction. So again, I don't know exactly, you didn't explain exactly what signals are going in. So you might need, as well, you might need input opposite no signals. So you might need to include that one. So, but I don't know. But yeah, so you do need at least this input no signal. So, yeah, but the problem is that input opposite signal, which is your condition number 1, conflicts with input opposite no signal. So it conflicts with this one. So you can't really, both of these enabled probably means your signal blocker will never ever block anything, right? Because they're opposite conditions of each other, right? So they're in conflict. Um, so I think really it's just the way you kind of phrased condition number two, saying either directions. Um, yeah, just you can't really have no signal in both directions there. Um, well, you can, but um, not as when it pertains to blocking signals. All right, so it looks like I have gotten through all the questions so far, and let's see where we at. It is 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so 2.5 hours, 12:34, 2.5 hours after, or yeah, 2.5 hour time period here for the workshop there, 2.5 hour mark. So, and wow, we still got half the people in the room. Okay, I'm surprised you guys haven't fallen asleep, or you probably drank a whole gallon of coffee by now. All right, guys. Well, I'll give everybody about 5, 6, maybe 7 minutes here um, to see if there's any more questions for today. And if not, then we'll wrap it up in 5 to 6 minutes. All right. But if you do have more questions, let me know and we'll get those answered. All right, guys, just again, if you have any more questions, you've got about 3 or 4 more minutes to get them in. Otherwise, I will wrap it up. All right. All right, gentlemen, I think we are done for the day. So with that, yeah, let's see, we'll close it up and let's see here. So yeah, if anybody, I guess let me just remind everybody, if anybody wants to watch the recording over the weekend or whatever, just remind you, you need to email support and ask that the workshop recording be uploaded to the raw channel. Right, uploaded to, yep, the raw channel here. All right, and yeah, that way you can watch it again over the weekend, or well, probably by tomorrow. So, you know, depends on how long YouTube takes to process the videos. Sometimes it takes a day. Yeah, sometimes it takes just a couple hours. Yeah, you never know. Uh, yeah, so um, all right, gentlemen, with that, yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. So, and yeah, you're welcome, Doug. And just to clarify, I actually don't share my expertise. That's not what we do. So, I'm just here to help you guys understand how to convert your ideas, into Bloodhound there. Yeah, but we don't provide any kind of trading expertise or trading advice, and we don't provide solutions to, um, issues you might have with your signals or your trading methodology, right? So, um, yeah, generally speaking, right? Every trading methodology will generate a handful of bad signals, for sure. And yeah, we don't provide any kind of advice on solving those kind of things. So just to be clear where we stand. So, all right, guys, with that, if I don't see you tomorrow, then have a good weekend and see you next time. All right, bye bye, guys.